This movie was the first time in my life when I actually took pride in explaining what was happening to someone else because I cared about the hero enough to tell them. Hey, what's going on, friends? My name is John, but people on the internet call me Narwhal, and I had never seen a single superhero movie in my life, so I started this challenge to watch every single one of them in order. And today we're going to talk about Iron Man 2. So yeah, like I said, right as I was starting this movie, my dad got home and he was like, oh, what are you watching? And I was like, Iron Man 2. And he was like, oh, what's going on? Like, what's, he wanted to know the context. And then two weird things happened. First of all, I actually wanted to explain what was happening and like who Iron Man is, the backstory. And second of all, my dad actually seemed kind of intrigued. He definitely didn't really want to watch it because my dad has never cared for superhero movies at all. And that also relates to like so many people comment on TikTok when I started this series saying, how have you never seen a superhero movie? Why have you never seen a superhero movie? What's wrong with you? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I did other things. Played basketball, played Modern Warfare 2, played RuneScape. Like I did other things, and the movies just didn't interest me, probably because my parents never watched them and never got me into them. And my dad still didn't really give a shit, but overall the movie was decent, which is expected. I feel like there was a certain year or time period when things got to a point where every new superhero movie that came out, you just knew because of the insane budget that they had, you knew that it was going to at least be like a 7 out of 10 just on pure spectacle alone. You know what I mean? Like, I gave this movie a 7.1 out of 10 on my TikTok review, and I think that that's fair, but it's also like, how can you make a fucking Iron Man movie that's less than that, you know? Like, I can't imagine an Iron Man movie that's just a 3 out of 10. So a 7 out of 10, relatively speaking, isn't that impressive. Does that make any sense? Of course, Robert Downey Jr. killed it again. Without him, like I said in the last Iron Man video, these movies wouldn't be what they are. I love how improvised everything feels, and holy shit, Tony Stark is an asshole. Like, I know that you're meant to root for him, and even in the first movie, I realized that he's this likable, charismatic douchebag, and that's the point, but I'm like, wow, this guy is just the worst sometimes. Now, the main thing with a lot of these movies that always pisses me off are these minor conveniences that happen just so that the writers don't have to write their way out of or explain why something happens. It just happens by coincidence, sort of. Those are the types of things that always turn me away from like corny action movies, Fast and Furious, Transformers. I know people love them, but I hate those types of movies. And there was a couple moments that kind of felt like that. For example, the villain, Ivan Vanko, I think that's how you say it, who was the villain of this movie. Apparently he just knew that Tony Stark was going to be at this event, which is fine. But then the fact that Tony Stark raced this car, which nobody knew he was going to go race that car. But then the villain is like perfectly set up to counter that, or like that's kind of like the villain knew that was going to happen. And I was just thinking like, all right, if the villain has a game plan going into this event on like how and where he's going to capture Tony Stark, if randomly Tony decides that he's going to do something totally different than what everyone expects him to do, how would the villain know that? And how would he just like conveniently get away to get onto the racetrack like that? You know what I'm saying? And I know it's a super villain. It's a movie. Things happen. They have ways of doing it, whatever. Justify it however you want. I just think those types of things will always annoy me. And like, I hate cheesiness. Like, there's sometimes when cheesiness works. Like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, that shit is cheesy, but it's dope. But in this movie, there's a big standoff on this racetrack between the villain and Tony Stark, and the villain is just standing there and just lets Tony put his suit on. Tony is vulnerable as a person. He's standing there totally vulnerable, and instead of just attacking him, charging him, beating the shit out of him, he just stands there, lets Tony put this suit on, which the guy should know that this suit is probably going to destroy him, but he just doesn't do anything until they're both ready to fight. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm complaining to the abyss here because no one really cares except for me. And then another note that I wrote down that maybe some of you guys could clarify for me. I said that they would never put Tony Stark and this villain in the same room together after he had been arrested. There was a scene where Ivan Vanko, I still don't know if that's how you say his name, but he was basically got arrested and he was in this like interrogation room. And out of all people, like not a cop, not a police chief, not some FBI guy who comes in, it was Tony Stark. And I'm like, they would never put them in the same room together. That doesn't make any sense to me. Yes, he's a wealthy billionaire that everyone knows, but he's not a cop in any way. So I don't know. Maybe there's some justification for that I just totally missed, and maybe I missed some storyline, but I was like, why are they in the same room together? Also, I read that apparently Scarlett Johansson hates how sexualized Black Widow was in this movie, which I don't blame her. It's pretty crazy how long it has taken. Well, it's still not really fully fixed. Like, a lot of movies still have hypersexualized characters, but things have definitely gotten better in the last like 4 to 5 years. But it's just crazy how long it actually took before any sort of changes were made to be like, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't need to make this movie potential jerk-off material for teenage boys and weird old men. Maybe the characters could just dress how a normal person would dress. All right, now here's the thing that might get me canceled. Out of everything I've ever said, this one thing might get me canceled. I have never really enjoyed Samuel L. Jackson that much as an actor. That's not to say he's not amazing. I think he truly is one of the best actors alive. I get why people love him, but for whatever reason, the type of characters he plays never really like connect with me or intrigue me. And let me make it very clear, because people always try and twist shit. There's a difference between thinking something's not good and not liking something, all right? I personally just have never really connected with Samuel L. Jackson that much in movies that he's in, but I see why he's amazing and I think he's fantastic. But my point with saying all of that is that he was amazing in this movie and I actually really liked it. I personally didn't really like the music too much. Also, there was not that much cool Iron Man stuff in the middle chunk of this movie, which for me isn't necessarily a bad thing. I've talked about how I love character pieces and slower stuff, so I don't need some full throttle action all the time, but I can see how maybe for a lot of people this movie might have dragged a bit. Also, I didn't realize that Pepper Potts was Gwyneth Paltrow. My whole life, I've heard of Gwyneth Paltrow, and I've seen a lot of movies, but I just never knew what Gwyneth Paltrow looked like. I have a lot of weird things in my head. Like, I always think Seth Rogen and Jonah Hill are the same person, and I know they're not, but in my head they are. I thought Will Ferrell was the star of Kick-Ass for my entire life, and I've seen the Kick-Ass posters and stuff, and I just recently found out that he's not even associated with that movie at all. And then this is another example that I thought Gwyneth Paltrow looked totally different. I thought that the person who played Pepper Potts was some other actress. So I'm making all sorts of connections here, guys. I think my favorite thing out of this whole movie was Black Widow. I think that learning more about that character was really interesting, and I'm excited for the upcoming Black Widow movie, which, this is actually crazy. I did my calculations, and it turns out that on TikTok, my series will end on July 8th, either 7th or 8th, and then Black Widow comes out on the 8th or the 9th. I forget, but my point is, things line up literally perfectly to the day my series ends. The day after that is when Black Widow comes out on streaming services, so I'm just gonna throw that on to the end of the series. But that's all I really gotta say. I thought Iron Man 2 was decent, you know, not bad. I enjoyed the time overall, but it didn't really compare to Iron Man 1, and yeah, I'm excited to watch the rest of the MCU. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like and leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought of Iron Man 2. I just want to say I really appreciate all your guys' support and feedback and interactions and comments and all that stuff, because if you can't tell, I absolutely love doing this shit. I absolutely love posting on TikTok every day. I love talking about movies of any kind, so this has just been super fun for me, and it honestly is a dream to be a full-time content creator, so hopefully one day I can get there. But yeah, if you enjoy me or my content, be sure to check out my podcast called Peak to Middle School. It's all linked down below. Would you run back into a tornado to save your pet? You're cleared from the tornado, your pet is stuck in your car, and you guys all evacuated the road because there's a tornado pretty fucking close. Do you run back and save the pet and risk your life?
How risky is this situation?
Pretty risky, very risky. 50, it's a toss-up on whether or not you survive.
See, like, that's a tough one, but I don't think so. I don't know. I would feel so bad. I might just like give it a little go, and then if I see that it's just not gonna happen, I'm probably like, all right, you guys they're already in the air. Sorry.
Kyle jogs like 5 yards and he's like, nah, just runs back.
Just give it a little couple good aggressive steps and be like, no. All right.
And with that being said, I'm gonna go watch Thor. Wish me luck. Peace.